Good evening, dandies. Welcome to Undetermined, the podcast.
Here we go again.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than us all driving 3.5 hours in our separate directions to meet each other and
In a pandemic.
and meet each other with one microphone and talk.
Yeah, get real close
Yeah.
to each other.
We've done that
Sneeze.
once.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Get a little closer.
Then it's the city of Rolla's problem. Or wherever we'd meet up. Where would it be?
No, probably Springfield is.
Yeah. I think you go to the guest.
Yeah. Kind of the triangulate it.
Yeah, I think that's
That'd be the
probably
nice thing to
true.
do.
That would be the nice thing. We're not necessarily nice. You need to get out of Springfield, though.
Yeah, I do. I've been stuck here so long. I mean, not only like year wise, but because of the COVID. You know, I was stuck at home for 5 weeks with my youngest child, and he slept all day, played video games all night, and then I waited on him hand and foot and brought him lunch and dinner, and we watched all the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Did he get into like entitlement mode where just like he expects to be served?
No. He's a good boy. He'd do the dishes and stuff. We had a good time. I enjoyed it a lot.
It's weird though when you're separated like this, it becomes a Twilight Zone kind of, when you don't have the societal rules of like telling you where to be, what to do, you know, and you don't have that guidance. It's just hours, you know, minutes turn into hours and hours turn into days, and it's strange.
It's very strange.
Your sleep schedule gets way off, and yeah.
I saved a lot of money though, and we rode bikes. There's a good bike trail just down the street from my house that we can just ride on, and not be on streets. And all I bought were groceries and, you know, my internet connection and stuff like that. So it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah.
The economy's, you know, we're in a recession at this point, and there's gonna be so many rock and roll clubs and movie theaters that are going to close down. But
Yeah.
I, for one, had a great time taking off for 5 weeks. So
Right.
Yeah.
I feel terrible for people that didn't, but yeah.
You know what? I got to work from home, and I still get to work from home, so I'm not going to complain that much, because there are going to be lots of people heading back out into the big scary world with people not wearing masks.
Yeah, I go to about anywhere from 4 to 7 house calls a day into people's houses working on their broken recliners, and I wear a mask and they stand over me breathing on me, and it's
Right.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
That would be awful.
And wearing trifocals with a mask on, it's impossible to see what I'm doing in a dark shadowy living room.
Yeah.
Have you figured out the fog trick?
No, I have not.
Oh yeah. Probably the best thing to do is you take like Dawn dish soap, something that cuts oils, right? And you just get it on your fingers and stuff. And first wash your hands, but of course, then you put it on your fingers and rub it all over the lenses. Rinse it off pretty good, not entirely, but then dry it off. But just make sure that you never touch the lenses again.
Yeah.
So it's the oils on your fingers and shit like that make it to where the fog comes up. So if you don't touch your glasses, and like I say, you should wash your glasses anyway because they get gross, you know?
Yeah.
So do that every once in a while. But when you do that, I found that when I wear mine and I put a glasses on it, if I get them real clean and dry, you know, soft cloth, etc., Dawn dish soap, they won't fog up for like 2 or 3 hours on you.
Well, I need something, because people stay home waiting for me to show up to their house. They've got their curtains shut, the lights are all off, and I've got a tiny little flashlight on the end of my drill, and it's really the mask and the trifocal thing. The fogged up glasses are difficult, but my trifocals, I'm having a hard time focusing on something, because there's so many things to look at with that mask on. It just makes everything insane.
I teach, and we've talked about this before. We actually got a survey about how we thought things were going to going back into the fall into the classroom. And one of the district questions was, how would you feel about kids wearing masks all day and social distancing within the classroom, making sure they're staying 6 feet apart? And I was just like, man, we have kids go home without their shoes.
Yeah.
You know? Like their shoes are in the lost and found. It's like, how many masks do you think are going to be on that lost and found table?
Well, and how are you going to socially distance in school when the schools are overcrowded in the first place?
Right.
You can't.
No, you can't. I mean, I told them that. I said, it's a physical impossibility in my classroom. It's too small. You literally cannot distance kids 6 feet apart and there be enough feet for them to be apart.
Well, they came up with a way to teach kids remotely, and they did it real fast, but my youngest I think he got all A's, which I'm like, did you really get all A's? Did you really?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
My kid, his school, and we just got him enrolled in a new school, which may not make much difference.
Right.
It's going to be at home either way. But they're like right now kind of up in the air. Like they're offering, you can do school from home half the time and the classroom half the time.
Yeah.
Or you can just do school from home.
Yeah.
And we're leaning toward the half and half if things clear up. You know, that's because he needs contact. Poor kid has not seen another kid in several months now.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel bad for him.
But if you're talking about mitigating a virus, what difference does it make? It's like once you take that mask off for a minute, even if you've been wearing it all day and you're with somebody else who takes it off, you know, I mean, it sounds crude, but it's comparatively to a condom.
Right.
That it's like, you know, I'm going to take this off for a couple of minutes. It'll feel better. And then I'm going to put it back on. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I was at a convenience store the other day, and the woman behind the counter, literally every 2 seconds, she would pull her mask down, and then 2 seconds later, she would pull it back up. And I'm like, what? Why are you even wearing it?
Right.
You're defeating the purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. You're touching it. And it's kind of funny. I watched some training videos of people who were just like, you know, don't touch it at all. Well, the moment you get out of your house, keep your hands off it. It's instantly contaminated. It's like, if it's that scary, and the way I look at it with like public schools or big public events, either it's safe to go or it's not safe to go. Let's make a decision. You know, let's figure it out. I don't know that it is.
It just clicked with me. You had a kid in Italy. Is he still there?
He went to school in Italy, and as soon as they figured out that they were going to shut Italy down, they made him leave. They flew the entire school, any of the kids that were from America, back to New York, and then they quarantined them for 30 days.
Oh, wow.
In some dorm rooms that had not been used for a while. And if they got caught outside of their room, they would be quarantined for an additional 30 days. So then they flew him, after the 30 days was up, they flew him to wherever he wanted to go in the United States, and he wanted to go stay with his girlfriend in Eugene, Oregon. So flew out there, and he just got back today. I haven't seen him in 5 months. So today was the first time I saw him since I saw him in January.
Wow. Well, I'm glad he survived all that.
Well, I mean, he didn't spend a lot of time in places. He was in school so much. I wasn't too worried about him. I mean, he's young and healthy. Of course, we've heard terrible stories of young, healthy people dying, but I wasn't too worried about him. But once they decided that they were going to shut Italy down, like I said, within 3 days, they were on planes out of Italy to New York. So,
wow,
it was crazy. And then he had to do the rest. He's in fashion design at Fashion Institute of Technology, and those are hard classes to take when you don't have teachers, in person. So,
yeah, that would probably be more hands-on needed than some other things.
You know, when he'd run out of thread, he couldn't just go to the store in Eugene to buy thread for a jacket. So it was kind of a crazy year, and they sent us $84. I don't know what the discount's for, but I think it should have been more than that, because school's not cheap. I don't know how he's going to ever pay off his student loans, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm still not going to pay off my student loans. That's
oh my God, that's the farthest thing from my mind right now.
Yeah. You just kind of forget about them.
Debt.
What else can you
a
do?
lot of debt in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm keeping up with the bills that I think are, important. My mortgage, my car payment, and all the shit like that. But it's like, everything else is on hold. You can wait.
I just paid off a Discover card after 13 years yesterday.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was it got a little big, and that years ago when I was young and had 27% interest on a Discover card, and then it just every month it was bigger than it was the month before, and I didn't even put anything on it. Just the interest was killing me.
Right.
But I'm done with credit cards.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I don't have any currently, and I'm okay with that.
Well, hey, before we get too far out in the weeds, man, you kind of do need to stay in Springfield because you're sort of a Springfield staple.
I suppose.
Yeah, we should introduce you. That would probably be smart.
We should introduce you. That might help into the 11-minute mark. So we are talking to Joe Livingston,
a.k.a. Mr. Blonde.
I still get people that call me that every once in a while. Not as many as I used to. I mean, it has been 25 years since I was Mr. Blonde. So.
Yeah. Didn't we talk to Billy Smith here a while back, and he referred to Joe as Mr. Blonde first?
Yeah.
Joe.
Of course, he knew me as Joe mostly, but
yeah.
But yeah, I listened to that episode today just because I listened to it when it first came out, but I wanted to check it out again in case we brought Billy up. But
yeah,
I was Mr. Blonde when I knew him and worked in radio. A long time ago.
So, what was your first dip into radio? Where did you? I mean, did you get the license first, or how does that story go?
No, I worked at McSalty's, and my friend Jeff Canino knew a bunch of people that worked at the Planet, and he got me in the door, and I just went over and pitched an idea for a show. I walked in, and everybody's sitting in the main office, and told me to pitch my show, and I pitched it to 7 people or so that I didn't even know, and told them what I wanted to do on Friday nights, and it was Enjoy the Noise. And I was really into Nirvana and Mudhoney and Fugazi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a 2-hour show, and they gave me an hour, and then they asked me to start doing overnights shortly after that, and then I expanded the show to 2 hours, and my PD, or my music director at the time, was like, how long was your show last night? I'm like, it was 2 hours. And they're like, who'd you clear that with? And I said, I cleared it with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was such a renegade radio experience that most people could never have. I think we were pretty lucky to have that kind of experience in radio.
Yeah, any kind of radio station where to get paid, you have to wrestle the owner's son to
crack. He's tough to wrestle too, man. That dude was stout.
Anybody that liked to wrestle for money would obviously be a good wrestler. So
I never beat him.
My wrestling experience was like 7th grade, where we had to wrestle in gym class. That was as far as it went with me.
Right.
I'm like, just give me my fucking money, dude.
So what's I got to hear the story behind this. So what? There were feats of strength involved in getting shit approved. What happened?
The owner of the radio station, and it was a small station, an FM and an AM station, and
the creepy dude that was on the other side,
Ron.
Yeah, Ron, who had the stinkiest cigarettes ever.
Yeah, he was smoking like Pell Mells or something. They weren't good at all. Anyway, Craig ran the radio station. He somehow talked his dad into letting him run a radio station, and basically had all his friends working there. And we played what we wanted to play. There was no real format on the station until there was a format, and then he would get money from different advertisers in cash, and then if you wanted some money, $40 or $50, which is what most everybody got paid there, maybe every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No, I didn't even get that, but I was working part-time.
But this is the Planet, right? Yes. Okay. Just for our listeners.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning.
And most people my age, or maybe a little bit younger, remember the Planet fondly as, just a great radio station.
And that was why the cred that you got with being there was worth not getting paid.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways. And man, getting into any show just about that you were interested in.
Well, and I used to, even back then, I would complain that we didn't get enough concerts. I would literally be standing at a concert talking about how there aren't enough concerts in Springfield, and now there aren't any concerts in Springfield.
Right.
So
There was some good stuff that came through.
great shows.
Oh yeah.
John and I have gone to a lot of shows. We found out we went to a lot of shows together that we didn't even realize it in Springfield.
Yeah, that we were there, at the same time, but didn't, we weren't hanging out or whatever. We were with our own clique.
I mean, I've seen Fugazi in Springfield. I've seen Vic Chestnut in Springfield. I've seen Uncle Tupelo in Springfield. I've seen some great bands.
Oh yeah.
Shiner. I brought Shiner to town one time to the Thumbs Up, which is the club you guys were talking about on the show with Billy Smith.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Well, it was, Thumbs Up. Then it was the Outland Ballroom. Now it's the Ballroom.
It was the Outland. That's right.
Yeah, Outland downstairs. I'm trying to think of the other club. But it's, they totally remodeled it. It's a great place now. But they were working on a medical marijuana license. And so they shut the Outland down, but then they didn't get the license. So I'm not sure what's going on. They're sort of in limbo over there right now.
Wow.
Well, everybody pretty much is right now at this
For
point.
sure.
Yeah. So trying to figure out what's going to go on next.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the Planet. It was just, it was a year of my life where I worked overnights being cool. And then I would go clean houses during the day. I would sleep for like 2 hours. I would actually go to the bar next door after I worked. No, before.
Oh, God, I love that place.
And then I would go to work at 2. I worked 2 to 6 in the morning after having been at a bar all night where I got free beer.
Uh-huh.
And then I would work 2 to 6, and then I'd sleep for 2 hours and go clean houses with a couple old ladies in the day.
Nice. Yep. I would go to school when I got done there. And did you have the donut dude?
Did I have
that would he had the donut delivery route, and he'd call up in the middle of the night and ask to play a song. If you played the song, he'd bring you free donuts.
He must not have been delivering donuts at 2:00 in the morning,
Yeah.
or at least not when I was working. I don't remember.
Maybe he just worked weekends, because that's when I was primarily doing the overnights. But yeah, I had my donut dude. I can't remember his name, but he'd call me pretty routinely. Hey, play this song. I'll bring you some donuts.
Well, I had made donuts for a while at whatever, Mr. Donut or something, and I had a real disdain for donuts for a couple years afterwards.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
That was another job. That was a job I also did overnights back when donut making was actually done overnight, and it was not fun.
Yeah.
It was way less fun than working at a radio station overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember my sister when I was probably about 12 years old, and she was about 16 or 17. She got her first apartment, alienated herself from the family, but she got this apartment down in downtown Morrison. And it was a nice, old apartment, everything, but it was right above the bakery, and you'd go in there and it's like every time, oh my God, it smells like fresh cinnamon rolls and bread. And it was just wonderful. She's like, yeah, you get fucking tired of it real quick. She's just like, within a day or two, it's over.
Yeah.
I ate like as many donuts as I could for the first week, and then after that, I was like,
right.
I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
Yeah, it's amazing something like that smell would get old, but you said it get old fast.
So my job, when I got onto the Planet, it was like the weirdest, craziest interview, because it wasn't an interview. I had called, had my first radio job in West Plains, my hometown, and when I moved to Springfield for school, it's like, man, I'd love to get back into radio up here. And the Planet in my book was the coolest station in town. So I called him up, and Rick answered the phone, and I just kind of asked, you got any openings? What's going on? He's like, why don't you, you got a tape, come on in, talk to me tonight. So I'm like, yeah, cool. So I went out to the station. It was like pouring rain, and I went to the front door, and I'm like banging on the front door forever, just getting drenched. And it takes forever for him to come. Oh, you should have come to the back door, man. Well, fuck, I didn't know.
Right.
And then he's like, hey, I'm Rick. Relax, man. You got the job. And that was it.
Yeah, see, I had to sit in front of all these people that I didn't know and plead my case, and you knocked on the wrong door and got a job.
I know. And it's the weirdest thing. I don't know how that happened, but I was thankful for it because it ended up being a lot of fun.
It was great. It was I love having kids and I enjoy them immensely, but the coolest, funnest time of my life was working at the Planet for a year. And then I went on to work in, at the radio station. As we subsequently got sold every couple of years,
Right.
I continued to work there, but I never had near as much fun as I did working at the Planet.
No, there was a freedom that came with it. And there was kind of a, I don't know, rebellious nature to it, right? It wasn't corporate, right? When it became Channel Z, you could feel that corporate sneaking in. But when it was the Planet, it was just Wild West radio, really. Hey, just don't play the same song twice in your shift. Okay, I could deal with that rule.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun and it was cool. And if you met somebody that didn't know the Planet, you didn't care. You didn't want to talk to them. It didn't matter.
Right.
It was great. And if you listen to the station long enough, you were going to find, I think a lot of people would identify with a certain DJ. Some people like to listen in the morning. Some people like to listen at night. Some people listen when they're driving home from work or whatever. But I think with the Planet, you, as a listener, you would find your DJ because that was the guy who you identified with, or they played the kind of music you wanted to hear. And it's such a great thing for a DJ to be able to pick their own music. I think.
Yeah, I love that.
Makes fans of people. So
I remember, and I don't know who the culprit was for this, but I remember one night Rick pulled me aside and he was like, "Was this you?" And apparently somebody had played Patty Scheffela, like Bruce Springsteen's wife, on the station, and he was trying to narrow down, like it had come through that somebody had played that, and he was like, "Was this you?" And I was like, "Fuck no."
It wasn't me. It was probably Lennox.
That sounds.
He had the worst taste in music of anybody there. So
Lennox. Yep. He even had the worst name, Dr. John.
Yeah.
Dr. John.
See, he played Springsteen's wife. It was him. I know it. I guarantee it.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
But I gotta say, man, from an outsider's perspective, anyway, I moved down to Southern Missouri from up around Chicago, and was exposed to some really good music up there. And I moved down to Southern Missouri thinking I was just doomed. A few years later, I moved up to Springfield. But I mean, the Planet and even the more corporate Channel Z, I think, just added so many cool points to living in that community. It was a lifesaver, man. I mean, because you're talking about the days where you had to buy a record. I mean, you couldn't like stream shit, or anything like that.
Right.
Well, and for for years, through high school and into college, the only thing you could listen to radio station wise, music wise, was MTV 120 minutes or something like that, which you had to wait a week to listen to it.
Right.
And then hope that they played something you wanted to hear, which they always did. But when the Planet came on, people they lost their mind, and it was awesome.
No,
there was nothing like it. They were kind of cutting edge in a lot of ways. Like they played a lot of stuff before anybody else did.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember we were like the first or second station in the country to play the Cranberries, shit like that.
Yeah. Well, Matt, what did you say? We were talking earlier. What did you derive was the first artist to play out of there?
It was wasn't it?
Show.
The first band on the show,
yeah.
on the station.
Yeah, I thought that was what
it could have been. I don't think I was listening when it first came on, but I think I remember hearing "Smells Like Teen Spirit" for the first time on there. So
yeah. That was definitely on there, but I remember like I'm pretty sure that was like the first and last song officially played for the Planet.
Well, see, I was there for the last song, and I don't remember what it was, but I was the last. I worked the last shift before the Planet shut down, and I was the last DJ on the air until another Joe came on and took over and did the last mic break. So. But I ran the last shift.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And then they just came in and took everything and moved it out. And then I had to move the new, we got sold to
Super Frank.
Super Frank, who was originally from New York City, living in Augusta, Georgia, with the radio station down there. And he came in and they moved everything out. And then I had to move the new PD's U-Haul into his new apartment. And he kept joking around with me that Joe doesn't even know if he has a job yet. And here he is moving all my furniture into my house. And I'm like,
yeah, I remember that. Like, I had to keep coming back around. Like, I'm just curious. We'll let you know. All right. I'd really kind of like to keep going, and it would make sense. I don't think I did anything too fucked up.
yeah. And you guys actually pay.
Yeah, that was, well, usually.
Well, I remember getting actual paychecks from Channel Z.
No, I'm just saying, I remember having a paycheck bounce, too.
Yeah, I have no doubt.
Like, I had a rent check that bounced, and I had to pay, and they were, oh, you should have had more money in your account. Well, fucking pay me, and I would have.
Right.
I think you should be paying for that. Oh, that's not our problem. Debatable.
Well, 23-year-olds always have a different idea of what the world should run like than people in positions of power.
Right.
Kids try to work around stuff, and they're not always right, but you feel like you are at the time.
Well, I'm going to have a big nest egg on what you're paying me.
Right.
Channel Z was fun, but it once we started playing Alanis Morissette and stuff, I would play the song, but I wouldn't listen to the song for the most part. So
Right. There was still some good shit that got snuck in there, though.
oh, for sure.
All the time. I mean, yeah, I can remember just like being exposed for the first time to like Ruby and Leslie Rankin, you know. And then there's like a pig face connection, some, you know, industrial connection there. And it's like, but it's surprising to hear how everything was like barely hanging on a thread.
Oh, yeah.
Yet everybody, like every punk kid or every like alternative kid, everything thought like this is an institution. It's legitimized. You know, it's out there. It's on the radio. Of course, it's got to be, you know, real. It's got to be a part of our life. But then, you know, you guys are like getting paychecks bounced.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was not a stable environment by any stretch.
You're right.
Channel Z was more stable than the planet.
For sure. But for the life of me, I don't remember how long I was on the Channel Z. I don't know how long that lasted. It was a couple of years, I guess.
Yeah. I think we were probably there about the same amount of time for probably both.
Yeah, and then we got sold again and became The Edge.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which was even more corporate.
Yeah.
That by that time I had jumped ship. I was kind of let go without being let go because John was lame. Like, seriously, he was mad because I went over his head. Like, I had a show I did. You remember I did Midnight Express?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just like, I'm doing the overnight. Let me have some fun, try some new stuff. You know, it's a good time to experiment on shit. Midnight Express was basically people could call in, say whatever they wanted to say, as long as it wasn't like vulgar or threatening or anything like that. I'd put it on. And it ended up being like it did pretty well. Like when I left, Julie took it and started using it, which that's another story. But but like when I pitched it to him, he was like, I don't think so. So I went over his head to Rob, and I was like, Rob, can I try this? He's like, yeah, why not? Give it a shot. See what happens. So I did, and then John comes to me like, oh, why'd you do that? You said I told you not to do that. I'm like, yeah, Rob said it was okay. And they didn't just fire me. He just never scheduled me again.
Right.
That's called passive aggressive, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Edge was fun though. I had a good time out there, and then we moved from out on Kearney over to the Tower Theater.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and I spent about 7 years from the Planet to the Edge. And then one morning I woke up and the name of the radio station was Alice, and we were playing Bon Jovi, and I'm like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was next door at 97. We were both that upstairs space.
Yeah.
I remember that when I jumped ship, and they were. I was happier with that organization. I thought they were a little bit more together, and you weren't in fear as much at 97, which was nice.
Yeah. Well, I just never could get back into radio because all I ever wanted to do were specialty shows.
Right.
I wanted to have a 2-hour show on a Friday night, not work full time, and play what I wanted to play, and it took like 25 more years for that to happen. So,
yeah.
I'm glad you got it. And you got a pretty cool show, man.
I like it, and I get to do it in my own house, and I just email it over to the radio station, and they play it on Friday nights. And for the first time in my illustrious radio career, I actually get to listen to myself on the radio.
Right.
That would be kind of fun.
It is.
Yeah.
I like it.
So just as an outsider, somebody who was never a DJ, why do you think that is? That it always seems like those ideas get slept on, and those ideas are always the best ideas in the end. I mean, you look at even when you're looking at like MTV, Headbangers Ball, you're looking at 120 minutes, and everybody's like, it's never gonna. Nobody ever gives those things a chance. And then in the end, everybody's like, God damn, I wish we had 120 minutes back again. Or I wish we had, just various radio shows where people do focus on those things. Why do you think the establishment just can't get on board? The radio establishment just can't get on board with that?
Matt, you go ahead.
We're probably on the same page with some of this stuff. One of my feelings is they listen to analysts more than they listen to people.
Yeah.
And they'll come up with a formula. This is the formula that works. This is all the stations that are working are doing it. And they all start to sound the same.
Yeah.
And it gets boring. And I don't listen to the radio really hardly at all anymore. I listen to NPR.
Right.
But music radio, no. And that's sad because I loved it.
They like to focus on one artist like Adele and just put as much money behind her as possible and to try to make as much money off of one artist instead of spreading it around and letting everybody in on the action for some reason.
Yeah.
Right. They want that quick hit and they don't develop like they used to.
Yeah.
Like the Beatles and Rolling Stones wouldn't have happened today.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Because it took some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are so many bands out there that I play on my show that if the Beatles were around today, or if COVID struck the Beatles, they would have been fine. Or if it had struck during Michael Jackson's time, that guy was a billionaire.
Right.
And most of these bands like Future Birds or Jade Imagine or somebody like that, or who are barely scraping by touring the world,
right,
they're going to have a rough time bouncing back from all this stuff.
Yeah.
I did actually listen to the radio the other day. And it hurt me. Like it physically, I would just felt a little bit sick to my stomach because I was listening to, a station that years ago I liked. I'm not even going to name what station it was, but I liked it. And then I'm listening to it and I'm like, holy shit, they're all like auto-tune and really creepy, and I don't feel that authenticity coming from anything that I'm hearing. Some of the older songs that you throw on maybe, but some of the more current stuff, it's all really, you feel the formula oozing out of a lot of that stuff. And I think, holy shit, I am so glad that I have a podcast where I'm getting to talk to some real artists that are doing something that's real, for lack of a better word. And I get that exposure and I realize I'm getting all kinds of good stuff coming my way that a lot of people aren't getting exposed to.
Yeah. And I mean, it's strange to me too, that like in music, especially music as an art form, and you're looking at things like visual art, like a docent at a museum has to have a good eye for art to say this thing is going to work here. But then somebody who's like, trying to put together a musically structured art form or radio station or anything else, apparently it's not about that. And they don't have to have a good ear for music. And that just blows my mind. It seems like it'd be the one thing that they would have to have, but it's not.
Right.
It's just, it's whatever, it's like you say, looking at the analytics, looking at what's hitting, what's not hitting. Was this artist hot? Are they not hot? I don't know. It's almost like music has an exclusive on that right now, as opposed to visual art or film, I guess you could say, is also suffering the same.
Well, I think if you search it out, Shiner from Kansas City, and I know you guys have been talking to them a little bit on your podcast, but and they seem so far ahead of their time that most bands sound like them 20 years ago, and they're still putting out some great music.
Right.
Yeah.
And I never could figure out why Shiner, my favorite Kansas City band of all time, I don't know why they never were a huge band, because they should have been.
They should have been.
Everybody for the next 20 years sounded like Shiner.
Yeah. Yeah,
with
absolutely.
worse lyrics and worse production.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And their new album's great.
It is.
Oh, it's fucking amazing.
Josh is really fucking cool too,
Yeah.
man. We had a good time talking to him. We need to get more people from Shiner on.
Yeah, for sure. I saw them. I don't know if it was their last show before, when they broke up years ago at is there a club called the Madrid in Kansas City?
Yeah.
I saw Dirt Nap open for him. It was a great show.
Yeah. That would have been a good show. That would have been I was living just down the street from there at that time. I didn't go to that show.
That was a good show. You should have. That was the biggest Shiner show I ever saw. I saw him in Kansas City a couple times and brought him to Springfield once. And Billy might have brought him another time, but I always saw small shows and then saw him at the Madrid, and it was incredible.
That's a neat venue. Yeah, I like the Madrid.
Is it still open up there?
Yeah, they're still having shows there, and then I've DJ'd there quite a few times as a wedding DJ. I figured out that paid way better
than a radio DJ.
I kind of went from radio, I was doing radio on this, again, 20 something years ago.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's fucking weird to me. Just that's the case.
Oh yeah, it sounds backwards, and
you're right.
The wedding DJ. No, fuck, you can make some money being a wedding DJ. I was making, and this was doing contract work, right? So I'm getting a portion of the draw, and I'm still making, and this was 20 something years ago, $25 an hour, as opposed to making $8.25 at the radio station.
Right.
What am I going to do? I can work one night. For 3 nights of work at the radio station, I can earn what I did and get tips.
That's crazy. And I mean, especially when you look at the fact that it kind of makes sense in the fact that you are moving people and they want to hear things that you want to play and you know how to read a crowd and everything else like that. But when you think about the mass distribution of music you would think it'd be much more important on a scale of covering a whole listening area, of a city or something like that. So it's like you think the pay would be triple for that just to keep people tuned in. Just hear carpet commercials, but it doesn't,
Everybody wants to be on the radio.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody's thinking I want to be a wedding DJ.
Yeah.
But lots of people want to be on the radio. And were you at the meeting at Channel Z where I think it was Frank or Rob or somebody higher up was just flat out saying, if you don't like it the way we're doing it, if you don't like what you're getting paid, there's plenty of other guys out on the street that want your job.
I don't remember that, but I don't remember a lot of things that were going on back then because I was young and drinking all the time and having a great time. And
all right.
I'm sure somebody told me something like that. And
no, we were at a team meeting, and I can't remember who said it, but I remember very clearly that being said. I kind of feel like it was Frank.
It's kind of a douchebag move. I mean,
he was a douchebag anyway.
Isn't that true for every single sort of job or every single career? Yes, of course, everybody wants this job, but thanks for the encouragement, asshole.
Right.
It's like, you can steer me in a way you want me to, but fear, that's no way to run this thing.
Yeah.
And now everybody can have a radio station and not get paid because they can do it online.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm having way more fun doing this.
Sure. We got a show, man.
Yeah.
We got t-shirts and shit.
That we pay for.
Logos and fucking, we got Rockstar Friends and woo, you look at it on the surface, it looks great. Yeah, we don't know how to conduct business or any of that.
No, fuck no.
But we're having fun.
Yeah. Well, sure. It sounds like you are.
Yeah.
Well, I did a podcast for a little while and then I got depressed and stopped doing it. And then a radio gig came along. And like we were talking about earlier, I do my show on Friday nights at the local NPR station here. So, yeah, you can catch it at KSMU.org every Friday night from 7 until 9. Unless you're in Springfield, you can listen to it at 91.1. So
there you go, folks.
Nice.
I thought I'd plug myself. And then recently I opened a record store.
Yes.
Well, let's hear about that.
Well, it's called City Music Records, Books, and Artifacts, and we opened it in November, and we have records, books, and artifacts, and then we also have the living room in the back, which is a stage we've got set up, and we had our first show the week before Missouri got shut down. So we opened a record store 6 months ago and then immediately had to shut it down. We're hoping it'll turn out well for us, but it's been a struggle. Opening a business is a struggle for anybody.
Right.
But opening a record store in the age of streaming, I don't know if it was such a great idea, but it's something I've always wanted to do. And I opened it with a couple guys that I've known for a long time, Ken Childers and Jeff Moffitt. Jeff used to work at CD Warehouse. I got him his job there 25 years ago.
All right.
So he's been working in record stores since Musicland was in the Battlefield Mall.
Oh, man, I remember that place.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ken Childers worked at Channel Z. He was known as Big Daddy. Do you remember him, Matt?
I remember Ken.
I remember.
Yeah.
So we opened this record store, and our main goal is to get people in the door by having shows in the back room. So we start having like little living room shows, more acoustic shows. And we built this great stage. It's got a real 70s vibe to it with an orange couch and wood paneling. And it's really great. It's really great looking. Now, if we can just start, opening back up sometime soon to get bands in there, it'll be great.
Well, I think next week, Missouri's done.
Yeah, I think it's Monday.
Yeah, I think it's Monday. They're like, okay, it's all over.
Everyone's fine.
Everything is fine.
As the numbers go up.
Fuck, might as well go with it. We don't have a choice. What musicians and shit are you looking to play in there, or who have you had there?
Well, we had a couple shows scheduled. This guy named Justin Peter Kinkle Schuster, who used to be in a band called Water Liars from St. Louis, and he plays with another guy named Will Johnson from the band Centromatic out of Texas.
Okay.
He played our first show, and then this guy named David Dondero, who was produced by Mike Mogus, who was in Bright Eyes with Connor Oberst.
Oh, right on.
From years ago, and he's just been this traveling musician for years. He was named one of the best songwriters 2008 by NPR, by Tiny Desk Concerts.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And he's just been living in obscurity for years, but he's great. And so we had to cancel him because of the COVID. We have comedy show coming up in July.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and we're hoping to do one act plays and stuff like that because we have plenty of room for it.
That'd be awesome. Like indie movie screenings and stuff.
Well, that with movies, I'm pretty sure you've got to have some licensing deals in place to actually play movies. So,
well, I was just saying like indie movies, like just any local artists that have done something that might want to screen.
Yeah,
something up
Springfield every year has the Sado 48, which is where teams of movie makers come together and they get their themes given to them by the board of directors at Sado 48, and then they got 48 hours to make a short film, and then it gets played at the Moxie and a couple different times a year. It's pretty cool. So it'd be nice to get into a situation with them or work with the True False Film Festival in Columbia.
Yeah,
because we know I think they have satellite showings and stuff like that. So it'd be nice to get into a situation like that.
Oh yeah,
they're typically pretty thirsty here for anything that they can find. I helped a couple of people get on board with venues here during True False who make film. But yeah, that's a really cool idea. And I mean, we'd also love, just anybody who wants to go into this realm and help promote or anything else if they've got something interesting going on. Have any guests on that you want to refer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
We just figured that just having records and CDs just wasn't going to be enough to get people in the store.
Right.
We're having pretty good business, and it's picked up a little bit since Springfield has opened back up a little bit, but we thought having a little music venue in the back would be great because I've been doing living room shows for about 7 years or so in Springfield at houses that I've lived in.
Mm-hmm.
I work with this company called Undertow out of Champaign, Illinois.
Right on.
Run by a guy named Bob Andrews, who was Uncle Tupelo's tour manager for their last tour.
Oh, cool.
And he represents like David Bazan from Pedro the Lion and Will Johnson from Centromatic and David Dondero and a couple other people. And so I've booked these people already in my living room or my sister's living room, and 30 to 50 people show up. They pay a little more than they would if they were just going to a club show. It's usually like $25, but all the money goes to the artist. And a guy that you've seen in in a band is playing without his band, sitting in the middle of your living room.
Right. Yeah.
Playing songs that you love, but in a totally different format. And then you buy a poster from him or a record or a t-shirt, and all that money goes to him. And it's really the only way that some of these smaller bands that should have been huge, it's the only way some of them are going to make any money. And it's a great way to see a band. So we thought we'd take that idea from the actual living room and take the living room and put it in a record store.
That's awesome. Well, I know some of our guests have looked into doing that or thought about doing that. I don't know what their thinking is post-virus.
Well, I think it's a little bit, for me, I probably feel a little bit better about sitting in a back room of a record store with 30 people as opposed to going to a venue with 800 people.
Right. Roots and Blues and Barbecue, for example. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's insane.
Yeah. That's kind of scary now. But yeah, plus you say the intimacy. I mean, even $25, it's like, you're going to probably spend that on a couple overpriced martinis in the right bar.
Right. And in our situation, in a record store like we've got, or in the living rooms that I've put these shows on in before, people can bring their own beer. So you're not coming in to get wasted. You're coming in to have a few beers with a singer that you enjoy, that you're going to meet after the show. So you're not going to get hammered. You're just going to enjoy yourself and be cool in somebody's living room. So we're really hoping that translates into this little venue that we've got. So
I think it will. I think it will, especially for people who are, have been around the block. I mean, for me, I don't know how many times I tell my wife that I'm like, okay, I could spend $70 with me and a friend buying beers for him at a bar tonight, or I can buy this vinyl for $20. It comes in a few days. I get to spin it. We both have fun. We drink beer for like, $7 for the 12-pack, or whatever. And I'm saving you money, honey. That's just all I'm trying to tell you.
and then when your favorite band comes to town, you're like, but I'm not going to buy a record. I'm just going to go to the show, and I'm saving you money by going to the concert.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I never save money when I go out, but that sounds like a good way to do it. So what about your inventory and shit? Are you looking at primarily like pre-owned stuff, or?
Well, we sell turntables, receivers. I just sold a receiver to a friend of mine the other day, a nice little Pioneer from like 73.
Oh, no.
And we carry new vinyl. We carry used vinyl. We're trying to find some collections to fill up the store with. We've got CDs. I put in my entire CD collection that I've spent years collecting, that have been in boxes for the last like 7 years. So I thought it's about
nice, man.
My kids are never going to carry those CDs around. That's just the way.
Yeah.
And if they buy anything, kids these days are buying cassettes, and we sell lots of cassettes, which is kind of crazy.
That is weird.
That is strange. Yeah. We talked to a lot of people who are doing that, but
well, a kid can come in and buy a used Men at Work tape for $3, and it's gonna they're gonna be able to play it a couple times before it falls apart. So,
right. Well, I know that like even the guys at Blackside, I don't know if you're familiar with them, the label up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they do a thing where they have like a scholarship set up where they'll try and help bands that are kind of up and coming. And they can't help them press like a record or CD, but they can help them make cassettes that they can sell at shows.
For sure. Well, and I was listening to you and Billy Smith talk about National Audio here in Springfield, and they are in fact the only cassette maker in the world.
Crazy.
So if they're hooking these bands up with cassettes, they're coming from Springfield, Missouri.
That's weird.
And they were about ready to shut down. I've known lots of people that work there, and they were just about to shut down, and then suddenly they end up being the only cassette manufacturer in the world, and now they're doing better business than they've ever done.
That's crazy. They stuck it out, and it paid off.
I hope we can keep that going. That's such a great part of music history. I think if you can retain that.
Oh, I've got so many cassettes strewn throughout boxes.
I've got a lot I'm afraid to play because my players, I'm afraid of chewing them up.
Yeah, I haven't hit play for a while on
Yeah.
a cassette player.
I listen to a few cassettes at the record store. I work Monday nights. I don't work very much at the record store. Jeff does, because I fix furniture by day and work at a record store by Monday night. But yeah, we'll throw in a cassette. We were listening to King's X the other night and Men at Work.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But we've got books. We have a big collection of books, mostly like biographies and music books and stuff like that, and lots of CDs. It's a cool little record store. And we took the name from Kevin Morby from Kansas City.
Mhm.
We're all big fans of his, and he had an album called City Music, and I just thought it would be a great name for a record store.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. This is a completely different topic. I remember an injury you had.
What was?
Did you try to firewalk at one point? Something like that?
Yeah, it was not a good idea. Well, I was at a like punk rock outdoor music festival / camping thing.
Mm-hmm.
I went with my sister. I knew a bunch of people there, and I think my friend Mitch was the one that organized this whole show, and it was a real aggressive, it was punk rock, so everybody was just freaking out and going crazy and rocking out.
Sure.
And somebody threw some bottle rockets into the crowd, and it was just a crazy vibe. And I had taken a Xanax, which I didn't really ever do pills or anything, but I took a Xanax, which from what I understand doesn't make you crazy, but apparently I was not acting real smart that night.
You're going to lose some inhibitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Impulsiveness goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were standing over a campfire with somebody that I didn't know. And at this point, the crowd had kind of dispersed, and it was around the time of Twin Peaks. And I was like, firewalk with me. And some dude's like, I will if you will. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Oh, shit.
And he took his socks and shoes off. And I'm like, well, shit, now I got to do it too. And it wasn't even a big fire.
Right.
And I'm clumsy as shit anyway. So I stepped into the fire and just sort of fell into the fire, both my feet, and I couldn't get out of it.
Because that's kind of an illusion, right? I mean, the way they do firewalking, where it's like they make the cold coals on top, and like,
yeah,
nobody's prepping that for you.
Yeah, and if he basically stepped on a really sort of a non-burning log at this point, and then I stepped on it and fell down into the fire.
Oh shit! God,
it was rough, and I had mostly 2nd-degree burns between my toes. I had like 1 3rd-degree burn, and my sister was driving this little red Nissan pickup at the time, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, and they got me into the back of the truck, and I had my feet hanging out the back of the truck, and she kept getting lost, couldn't figure out how to get out of this where we were, and every time she'd stop, the only thing making my feet feel better was the wind on my feet.
Yeah.
And she kept stopping, and I would, yell at her to keep going. And she took me to my girlfriend's house, who ended up being my wife, who ended up being my ex-wife at a certain point.
Yeah.
She took me to her house, and we'd only been dating for like, I don't know, a couple weeks or a month. And my sister backed me up to the porch, and then I slept with my feet in a bucket of water all night, and woke up, and my feet were just swelled up like crazy.
My God.
And I didn't want to go to the doctor. And she's like, you got to go to the doctor. And so I ended up in the burn unit for a week. I'd have to go every day with little blue booties on and walk across a incredibly hot pavement to get into the burn unit every day. It was rough. It was a rough couple weeks.
Yeah.
I do not suggest firewalking with anybody ever.
No.
It's one thing, and I've been pretty careless and reckless in my life and partying and stuff. And it's one thing that happens with Midwesterners is inevitably at a party there's a bonfire.
Yes,
and inevitably somebody plays like Metallica "Jump in the Fire" or some shit like that. And I have tried in the past when I was much younger to stand up and say, "Do not fuck with this fire. Fire bad.
Yeah,
stay away." Find something else to do, go make out with your girlfriend, go eat mushrooms and watch fireflies. I don't care. Stay away from this shit. But inevitably, somebody always had to do that. God damn, that's scary. I'm glad you made it out of it.
Oh yeah, I did, and I have no ill effects from it. I have one little scar in between my big toe and my next toe, but I was fine. And then that's when I got the job at McSalty's, and my first day that I showed up at work, I was still wearing the blue booties. And TC, who owned McSalty's, was like, dude, you can't wear those things to work. I'm like, I told you I burned my feet. What do you want me to do? So I had to start wearing sandals over them, and it was not comfortable. And then I got the job at the Planet, and that brings it all back full circle.
Back to full circle.
So that's my radio stuff and record store stuff.
Nah, man, this is probably the most that we talked the entire time we worked together, too. Kind of a shame. I think it's because we were working different shifts, though, that didn't really correlate most of the time.
Yeah, and I'll see somebody that I worked with in radio with, and I don't remember them usually, especially like salespeople.
Like Ken?
Yeah, I never hung around with the salespeople. But I was mostly working other jobs at the time. I almost never worked full-time in radio. There were times when, like, the midday DJ would leave to go to Atlanta or something like that, and I'd take over for a couple weeks until they hired somebody from Atlanta or something like that. So I didn't really work full-time in radio very much. Most of the 7 years that I worked in radio, I was working at CD Warehouse, which I enjoyed a lot too.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It was a great place.
Yeah, I was going to school, and so I always felt like I'm a little bit on the outside because I wasn't there for as much as a lot of people were. Maybe you felt the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, on top of that, I'm still friends with a lot of people, like Stacy Shoemake. Do you remember her?
Yeah, I remember Stacy.
Alex, the news chick. Wasn't that what they called her back then?
Oh, yeah. I forgot the news chick part. I remember she got me to work for her one night so she could go to Blind Melon. And I was like, I kind of wanted to go, but I'll let her have this. And then he dies after that.
Yeah, I went to that.
And I was just like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And then she was like, oh, and I've seen him like 6 times.
Fuck you. Yeah. I gave Shannon Noon a cigarette and talked to him a little bit that night. Nice fella.
Was that the 120-minute show, or was that a different show?
Oh, that was, well, I mean, the one I went to was the Regency, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. At the Regency. I saw him there, and so I met him backstage. Well, I knew a couple of bouncers who worked at the Regency, and so I got backstage quite a bit.
I love the Regency. I saw such great bands.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing shows there. Good times.
I started going there in 86 when I was 16 because they had the mezzanine upstairs for the under 21.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I saw a Crowded House there. I saw The Call. I saw Concrete Blonde. It was a great place. I went a couple years ago. Speaking of Stacy Shoemake, she raised a bunch of money for a micro house community here, you know, for people that were transitioning off the streets into tiny houses.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a big benefit at what used to be the Regency. And I hadn't been in there in years.
Yeah.
It was so weird to be in there because half of it still looked exactly like the Regency. And then the other half of it, you know, the walls had been painted white or purple or something.
Yeah.
But it was just it was so mind blowing to be in there again after having not been in there for so many years. And it was such a great venue. I wish we had a club like that brought bands that I personally want to see to town.
Yeah.
Guitars and drums and, you know.
Say what you want about Gary. He brought in some good shows.
A lot of chances on a lot of people that I was surprised by, even that I would hear were coming through. Hey, My Life with a Throw Coke Cult's coming through there. Really?
And Meat Puppets.
Meat Puppets? Yeah.
This band named Chicken Scratch opened for him, and they were one of the best bands I ever saw. Somebody should do a podcast about the best opening band they ever saw. So.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Well, off the cuff, I gotta say, Chickasaw and Mother Puppies opening up for Jane's Addiction. Gosh, I can't even remember the year. I was like 16, 17 years old, but a 2-man kind of 1-man band.
For sure.
Fucking amazing. Circus of Power opening up for Alice in Chains. Also, that was
yeah. I think my favorite opening band was Neutral Milk Hotel opening for Superchunk at the Bottleneck.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Nice. Yeah, we've got a connection at the Bottleneck now.
Yeah,
yeah. Have they been closed for a while, or what's up?
Yeah, I think so. And then they're I think trying to carefully open back up.
Yeah.
I saw some great shit. That was my go-to place. I love the Blue Note, but I love the Bottleneck even more.
Yeah, I never got out there. I will soon enough.
Yeah,
you've never been to the Bottleneck?
I've never been to the Bottleneck.
He's one of those loyal to Columbia people.
Well, I've only lived here for so long.
I love the Blue Note. The best show I ever saw was at the Blue Note. My Bloody Valentine, Dinosaur Jr., Babes in Toyland. Mm-hmm. It was a great show. But the Bottleneck was awesome. I love that place.
Yeah. It's a good venue. It is a good venue.
Yeah. I don't want to shit on them at all. I've just never been there. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, and Lawrence was such a great town. I mean, I saw a lot of great bands in Springfield, but when I wanted to see a band that never played in Springfield, they would almost always play in Lawrence.
Yeah.
You could go there, and there was a bookstore across the street, so you could use the bathroom because you didn't want to use the bathroom at the Bottleneck.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was gross.
Not
you know,
not
I've
just
done
it.
that, and it's
Yeah.
But it was a great place. But I always loved the Blue Note too. I had such a great time there.
Yeah, the Note is good, and the Shrine Mosque was an amazing place too.
It's kind of a one of a kind venue.
I mean, one of my favorite shows I think of all time, seeing just in general, it doesn't have anything to do with the band necessarily, but was seeing Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson at the mosque.
There's an opener. Yeah.
Well, you know, they weren't letting people into the show with tickets after the show started because of Marilyn Manson. So I got there late.
Oh no.
And I had seen Marilyn Manson at the Regency at least once.
Huh.
That show, I didn't have tickets. I was on the guest list because working in radio, you didn't have to buy tickets to anything in Springfield at least.
I didn't pay to go to that.
And the show had started, 5 or 10 minutes earlier, and they weren't letting anybody in. People were freaking out that Marilyn Manson was playing in Springfield. So I missed that show.
Yeah, he got the first show was they were freaking out, and I mean he had like a big strap on stage and everything. It was like really like kind of sexually overtly disgusting what he was doing, and they didn't have a big problem with that. But the second time he came back during the Antichrist Superstar tour, that's when he got banned, and it was essentially for like ripping pages out of the Bible. So they didn't have a problem with him, like,
ripping out a huge dick, but
right, like, wearing a big plastic sex phallus. But the moment he started ripping pages out of the Bible is the moment he was banned.
Which is way, way worse than a president using a Bible for a photo op.
Right.
Not to get political on this show.
Oh, shit. We get political all the time, man.
Oh, I know. I didn't want to be that guy, though. It'll all be over soon.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so. God, I hope you're right.
I don't know. How sad is it, though? And this will be my quick rant because it's the most recent thing. Oh, CNN needs to apologize for me for my shitty poll numbers.
That's weird. That's so
They're
weird.
Your shitty poll numbers, not theirs. I mean, come on. He's such a baby.
Retract it and apologize. What? Because they're real?
Yeah.
Man, Jake Tappert hates that dude. He hates him so much. It's just insane.
It's yeah.
A lot of people do.
I know, but hearing a journalist on TV talk about what a liar the president is, I mean, not a lot of journalists will actually call out the president. They'll report the news,
right?
But
right.
Man, to actually hear reporters say our lying president,
right? I'm hearing more and more of it, though.
Yeah.
It's catching on. I'm hearing more people say, he's a liar.
Right.
And it's not like it's undocumentable. Like, it's verifiable that he is a liar. They are not just saying this venomously, even though they have some venom for him.
Well, I mean, you hear people saying shit like, well, fuck Dan Rather. Who cares about him? I haven't heard anything out of him for 15 years. You haven't had to hear anything out of Dan Rather.
Dan Rather did his job, and he had to come back.
Right. He's only coming back because the guy's the new bullshitter extraordinaire. He wouldn't have said anything. He'd have been fine retiring. But the only reason you're hearing from him is because it's so outlandish. You can be on one side or the other, I think. And here's my end-all kind of belief on it. Like the recent thing with trying to sue CNN for their poll, or tweeting about whether or not the guy in Buffalo who was the old man is an Antifa plant. It's like, I don't care whether you disagree or agree with him. You have to look at the fact that this is how this guy is deciding to spend his time.
Yeah.
Right? He's deciding to argue about this rather than solve some really real fucking problems that are going on. He's just not presidenting.
He's not. And do you get your little screen time update on your? Do you have iPhones? Because I every Sunday I get a little screen time notification about how long I've been on my phone the previous week.
Yeah,
I would like to see Donald Trump's
oh my God.
screen time notification.
Oh
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do his job. He tweets and he plays golf, and that's all he does. That is literally all he does.
I mean, I supervise people at my job, and I know if they were on the phone as much as he is, they'd be fired.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm sorry, you need to focus on what you're doing. And they listen better than he does.
Well, and just the baffling thing that so many people are so brainwashed that they can't see through it.
Right.
Because it's so blatant. It's so blatant, and to still miss it, instead of, hey, this guy's a dick and he's that incompetent, there's a new world order trying to make him look bad and take over, and they're trying to deliberately trash the economy and give everybody disease. and I literally argue back, if there were this new world order that had this power, do you think that Trump would have ever been elected in the first place? If they have the power to control the economy and crash the economy and start plagues, I bet they got the power to rig an election.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the prime example is looking at Bill Gates and what's going on there, and he's trying to kill us. Trust me, if Bill Gates wanted us dead, that could have happened.
Laser beams would have shot out of your computer and fried your brain.
Exactly. Like that would have happened a long time ago. Not it wouldn't have been this complicated.
And is it true that Trump voted by mail in Florida and he doesn't even live there?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And somebody needs to get that taken care of before November so we can vote by mail. So
yeah.
I hope so.
Or at the very least, you should be able to link your voter registration card up with your Facebook or some shit like that. I mean, everything's connected. They should be able. You should just be able to vote online in a second.
Oh, that kind of leads me back to where we were. Yeah, Bill Gates is trying to track everybody through the virus, like his whole big scam. And somebody is like, yeah. Because the guy that founded Microsoft couldn't possibly hack into it.
Right. Yeah, that's not possible.
Right. If I really wanted to trace somebody, everybody's got a smartphone these days. But no, let's give them a virus.
Right. Yeah, that'll be easier. Yep.
How are you going to make money off people if you're killing them? It makes no sense.
Uh-huh.
If they're going to buy another computer, that's where you make your money.
Right.
Yep.
Better off keeping them alive.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how it works. I think that's how you make money off people. Keep them alive.
Yep.
Have them buy more stuff.
Yep.
But there's more focus on him than, the tobacco industry or alcohol or anything else.
I pray it's coming to an end.
I hope so.
Well, for months, I believe that Donald Trump would get elected again, but the way his numbers are looking, I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, Sean from Redcade is convincing me of that more and more every day. I mean, I told him, a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know. I was surprised the first time, he got elected. And he was like, first of all, the motherfucker didn't get elected.
Sean's awesome.
He is awesome. That dude's he's just hardcore punk rock through and through in his soul.
You know Redcade?
I'm familiar with him. I don't know him that well, but I've heard you guys talk about him.
Yeah, we talked to him. You should check out the episode.
They're really cool dudes.
Oh yeah. I hope he's right, man. I hope that it's just done. I think really a lot of people are just forced into a cabinet where they're carrying water for Trump at this point.
They're so invested, it's just too humiliating to back out.
Yeah. Remember when Rush Limbaugh said, I'm so sick and tired of carrying water for this president?
Oh, man, I remember that.
And it's like, yeah, well, maybe not. Maybe don't do that. Maybe think for yourself. And I don't know. I think a lot of people are getting to that point. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Mitt Romney's starting to stick out.
Yeah.
Like in a good way.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to march.
God,
what?
No. Fuck, I'd rather have Romney now than...
Oh, for sure.
Anybody.
Any day.
Yep. Anybody.
Yeah.
And I always felt kind of bad for him anyway, because not that I would have ever voted for him, but I kind of felt like the system he had to like drop who he was to run for president.
Right.
Like he could have easily said, "Yeah, Obamacare, that shit was mine,"
Yeah.
and he'd have been right.
Yeah, probably.
And I'm sure it was hard to say, "Yeah, it doesn't work," when deep down he's like, "That was my idea, and it totally fucking worked."
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I got it, so I'll keep it.
Yeah.
So thanks to Obama and Romney. I think Romney is a pretty decent person all in all. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if I had to vote for him, I'd vote for him. I'll vote for anybody over Trump, unless
Absolutely.
it's another Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, a diaper full of waste in my yard without a home, I'm going to vote for over Trump. Homeless diaper 2020 and versus Trump.
I'll vote for my dog's ass. Okay.
Absolutely.
If you're going to vote for a homeless diaper, I'm going to vote for my dog's butthole.
There you go.
I'll start a campaign. What we would vote for before him.
Which one is less dangerous? You know, I mean, ultimately, that's what you got to look at. Virtually anything. And that's the problem. I mean, you know, we have talked with other people, just been like, you know, I can't understand how Joe Biden and Donald Trump are the two best people that we've landed on in this.
Yeah.
It's certainly not, but Trump will always be choice two for me. That level of incompetence, I cannot abide.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty amazing how little of a job he has done.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took it and went so far below my expectations, and they were low.
Oh, yeah.
Like almost like a parody-ish article, like Onionish or something, about how Trump made me believe in God because there's no other explanation for him than the Antichrist.
Yeah.
I thought that would be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Pushing so far through mysticism that it comes out the other side. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, if there is in fact an Antichrist, there must be a God. So that blows my whole theory out of the water.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yep.
That's going to keep me up tonight.
Oh, Trump.
No.
If he doesn't blow up the world just so he doesn't lose the election in November, hopefully we'll be okay. So
hopefully.
Yeah.
Just a couple more months to get through. Yeah.
Man, I've had a really good time talking to you.
Yeah.
Me too. Great to talk to you guys. If you're ever down this way, holler at me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to check out the record store. You know, I definitely want to get down to Springfield and check out some shows down there.
I post all my stuff on the old Facebook, so keep an eye out. But yeah, if anybody wants to come down and play acoustic shows, or at least quieter shows than they normally would at a club, send them my way.
Cool. We can do that.
It was nice to have known of you, but to have gotten to know you better.
It was nice talking to you, and I hope we can see each other soon.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. It's been a good time talking to you.
You too.
You've been listening to Mr. Blonde, Joe Livingston on Undetermined the Podcast.
Woo!
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We had a good time tonight.
Right on.
Everybody take care of each other out there. Love one another. And we will talk to you soon. Have a good night, people.
Thanks.
See you later. Thanks.
Bye-bye.